Next, you will need either some scrap yarn. I've seen people use paper towels. I've seen people use scraps of fabric cloth. I have a chunky scrap piece of yarn, and I'm going to cut it into some strips. And that's going to be our waste yarn that we weave in, which helps close these gaps and brings your thread close together and nice and even. So I'm going to bring my heddle back into the front heddle slot, and I'm going to lift it into the up position. See if I can show that. Up position. Take that scrap yarn and feed it through. But I'm not going to beat it in yet. I'm going to go down to my bottom heddle position. I'm going to place the next scrap. Now I'm going to bring my reed forward and push that down. And you see how the gaps are getting closer together. Do that as many times as you need to until it's all evenly spaced. All right, I think that is good. Now you have your loom all warped and you are ready to start weaving. First, you're going to need your shuttle. This is a stick shuttle, comes with the Ashford loom. Actually, this I believe is one that I made, but the one that comes with the loom is similar. It's a little bit longer. Now I'm going to make 2 shuttles, one with each color. If you're doing a single color project, you'll just need one. Okay. Let me try that again so you can see what I'm doing. Start with my thread here. I'm just going to wrap it around about 3 times to hold that secure and keep it from unraveling. Now I'm going to make a figure 8. And come down, up around the back, to the front. And I'm keeping my hand here so that this doesn't wind on too tightly. Now I could wind one color on this side and another color on this side. It depends on how you want to do your project. When you think you have enough on one side, you can flip it over and load the other side of your shuttle. So the hard part is knowing how much do you need for your weft. Well, if you're making a simple scarf and you're just using one color for your warp, and one color for your weft. About 100 gram skein of yarn, I can get a scarf that's about 8 inches wide out of that. So half of it will go on my warp and the other half I will use for the weft. And I usually have some left over. But there are warp calculators online that you can use that will help you determine how much you need for your project. All right, I think I have enough. Oops, so I'm just going to cut that off. I'll save the next one for later, because we're ready to get weaving, and I know you're all anxious to start your weaving project. So I'm going to show you how to do a hem stitch at the beginning of your weaving and at the end of your weaving. So the first thing you want to do is to measure out a length of yarn for your hem stitching. So I like to take about 1, 2, 3 lengths, maybe a little extra. And that's just going to hang down here at the bottom. I'm going to put my heddle into the up position. I like to always start in the up position and feed from the right to the left. Then when I move to the down position, I'll go from the left to the right. This way, if I stop in the middle of my weaving, I know exactly which side to start on, whether I'm raising the heddle or lowering the heddle. So here we have the heddle up. I'm going to pass through. Place the shuttle either in your lap or rest it on your weaving. You want to create a bit of an arch. This is the first pass, so we don't really have to worry about our ends too much. And now I'm going to go to the down position. Make sure you have plenty of slack. If you wind this and keep it really tight, when you put your shuttle through, you're going to start pulling. I don't know if you can see that, but it's pulling in. Let me zoom in a little here. See how that pulls in? We don't want that to happen. So make sure you start with plenty of slack in your weaving. Pass that through so you have all this slack, plenty of room to lay that in my lap, or if you have a shuttle rest on the side of your stand, you can use that as well. Now, I've got about 1.5 inches hanging out here. I'm going to pinch the end and then let go of that loop. And we're going up at an angle. You can create an arch or you can go up at an angle. You don't want to be way down here, because if you're down here when you beat in, that's again is going to pull your sides in. So you want some slack in here to fill in the gaps between your warp threads. And we're going to beat that in. Don't beat it too tight. You just want it to snug up against the next one. If you beat really tight, you're going to have a weft-faced weave, and you're not going to be able to see any of your warp threads. We want to be able to see those warp threads a little bit. All right, so now we're going to zoom back out. I'm going to go into the up position, and I'm on the right side. Pull through. I'm going to pinch. Don't allow it to pull in. Pinch it and hold it where you want it. And then we're going to beat. And see, I'm just barely touching that last row, and I'm going to let go. I'm going to go straight into my down position. Feed my yarn through. Pinch on the corners. And beat that in. I'm going to do 2 more rows. and then we'll start our hem stitching. You can see on the light side how you can still see the warp threads, and I didn't pack it in too tightly. All right, now I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, I've done 6 picks. A pick is each weft thread. So now I'm going to put my shuttle up out of the way with all that extra. I'm going to grab that starting yarn that we left length for. We're going to get a tapestry needle and we're going to do our hem stitching. Okay, now we've zoomed in nice and close, so hopefully you'll be able to see how we do the hem stitching process. Got my tapestry needle. And remember, this is not our working yarn. It's the beginning piece that we started with. And you might want to just kind of push your waste yarn down a little bit so that you don't accidentally snag it during this process. All right. I am going to, for the sake of ease, I'm going to do 2 threads at a time. A lot of people will do 3 or 4. It's personal preference. So from the back side, we're going to go over 2 warp threads and come up. And I'm going 2 rows up. You could do 2 rows up, you could do 3 rows up. Again, it's your personal preference. All right, now I'm going to come back from that right side under and through this loop that I've created. And pull that tight. And that's going to lock those 2 threads together. So now I'm going to go down, up 2 threads over, and 2 threads up. All right. And the yarn's over here, going under these 2, through that loop, and pull that tight. Now, you do not have to put a hem stitch on your weaving. You could wait and cut your strands and tie an overhand knot. But it helps create a nice finished edge, and you don't have to worry about your ends coming unraveled. Again, we're going to go over 2, up 2. My needle is behind all of this. Then keep your thread over there. We're going to go under 2 and pull that through our loop. And don't pull too tight, or again, you're going to cause a lot of draw in, and your end of your weaving will have a tapered look to it. Which is okay. If you make any mistakes in your weaving, you just call them a design element. Most likely nobody will know or see your mistakes except you. All right, now we're at the end. I don't know if you can see this very well. We're on the last two. There's no place for me to go. If I go over here, it's just going to hang out. So I'm going to go between those last two. But I am going to go under both of them here for my final loop. That way I'm catching the outer edge. Right, now I have a considerable amount of length left. And while I have tension on the loom, I'm going to go ahead and just weave a row of over and under. You can go all the way across, or you can stop a little ways in and cut your thread. All right, I'm close to the end, so I'm just going to cut that off. All right, now that you've finished your hem stitching, you can continue with your weaving. All right, so you can see here, if you forgot which way to move your heddle, where thread is on the right side, that means our heddle is going to go into the up position. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the weaving from a different angle so you can see the shed opening and closing. Heddle in the up position. Put our shuttle through. Again, pinch. Shuttle through from the other side. Pinch. And beat it down. Okay, now we have woven several rows of plain weave. And one thing that you may encounter in your weaving is that you want to either change colors or you run out of yarn. So I'm going to cut my working yarn and show you how to change yarn. Put our heddle in the up position and take this yarn that I cut and I'm going to feed it through. I'm going to take my new color of yarn and put that through also. And we just want these to overlap a bit. And then beat it into place. I'm going to go down. Down position, put my shuttle through, and beat that in. You can see you create a nice transition to your new color. I just leave this tail here, and when I'm finished weaving and I've washed my product and it's dry, then I'll clip any ends that are hanging out. Right, let's weave a few more rows of plain weave. Pinch and beat it in. Now, remember, if you create too big of a loop, let's say like that, when you go to beat it in, you see all these bumps? That's why you don't do too big of an arch. So you can create a small arch. Or just leave it at an angle, as I do. And as you weave, you maybe start to see that you were beating at an angle too much, and you can unweave, or you can take a fork or a hair pick and you can kind of try to beat it back into the correct place. Personally, I probably would just unweave a couple rows and try to straighten it out. So you want to try to keep your heddle level as you beat it down. If you go too much to one side, it will show when you're weaving. See, by pinching, we keep our edges nice and straight. Do a couple more plain weave. And you can see, had a little bit of a gap there. Just kind of move them back into place. All right, and there you've got your plain weave. Next, I'm going to show you a couple different weaving techniques that any beginner can learn to do. I'm going to cut this yarn, and I'm going to switch back to a different color. And I'm going to zoom out here so we can see what we're doing. Once again, we're changing colors, so we're going to bring this through, overlap our next color, and bead it in. And you can see by doing this, you're creating kind of a plaid pattern with the way I have this warped and set up. So one of the things that you can do as a beginning weaver is to play with color and stripes and plaids, and those are all easy to do with just the plain weave method. But when you've exhausted your plain weave, you may want to try something a little more challenging. Many of our Rigid Heddle looms come with a pickup stick. And a pickup stick is simply a shuttle that is pointed. Doesn't have this hole here for winding on. It's just pointed on either end. You don't currently have a pickup stick to show you. But if you don't have a pickup stick and you have a second shuttle, you can use that as your pickup stick. All right. So now we will learn the basics of the pickup stick. But I'm just using a plain shuttle. So with our heddle in the neutral position and behind the heddle, you can do it in front and then transfer it to the back, or just do it in the back. Let's just create a simple pattern, and I know I have an even number of warp threads here, so I'm going to go 2, 3, over 4, under 2. Let's skip 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go under 2. All the way across. Over 4. 2, 3, under 2. See there, we're going to end up with a dark and a light. 2, 3, 4. Under 2. And actually, I made a mistake there, so we're not going to end up with a dark and a light. I'm going to go back here. Under 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, over 4, under 2. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. We should go over those two, under 2 dark ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Under 2. Under 2, and then we have 2 left on the end there. All right, so now our pickup stick is in place. So what your pickup stick does is it can create warp and weft floats. A float is when you're going over more than one thread. All right, so we're going to put our heddle in the up position. Now if you see, if I slide, let me put the camera on the side so you can see what's happening here. All right, now hopefully you can see the heddle is in the up position. When I take this pickup stick and slide it forward, I've raised threads from the bottom slot to the top. Put that in. And then go down. Let's see if you can see what you can see here. We went under 2 threads instead of 1. Okay. Down position. See, the down position, if I bring it forward, would push other threads down. But normally, you don't do that. It creates too much tension. Right. Now, with my heddle in the neutral position, I'm going to slide this forward and flip it up. All right, so I have raised a completely new shed. This is going to create your weft floats. Now you'll also notice, bring the camera back around again, that heddle's in neutral and the stick turned up on its side. You'll notice that if I go across, I've skipped this thread completely. So what I want to do is I want to pick it up manually and then go through. And my heddle, my pickup stick fell there. All right, again on our angle, you can see we've skipped over all 4 of those threads. Put your stick back down and slide it back, and then beat it in. And here you can see we've skipped all those. I'm going to bring the heddle up. For a row of plain. Actually, that's not correct. I'm going to go down, because I want to make sure I'm going over that thread. Plain weave. So here you can see we created warp floats and weft floats. So got my heddle up for another row of plain weave. So now I'm going over those warp threads that we floated before. And so by doing these warp and weft floats, you can create some really interesting patterns. So again, with your heddle in the neutral position, your stick forward and tipped on its side, you're going to create a weft float. With your heddle in the up position and your pickup stick slid forward, you're going to create a warp float. You put your heddle pickup stick back, you can just create plain weave. So here I did 3 plain weaves. I'm going to bring my stick forward, heddle in the up position, and I created a warp float. Pick up, stick back, heddle in the down position, a row of plain weave. Heddle neutral, pick up, stick forward and tipped on its side. Remember to pick up this end manually, and you've made your weft floats. I'm going to go down position. For a row of plain weave, up, plain weave, down again, plain weave. So it's an interesting technique, and depending on how you place your pickup stick, you can create all sorts of really neat patterns. So just play around with it and see what you like. I wove a few more rows of plain weave, and I'm getting close to my heddle. There's not a whole lot of room here for a shed. So as you get closer, you'll want to stop and advance your yarn on your loom. To do that, we're going to loosen the back beam. A couple of turns. And if you've got this paper back here, just let it hang off the back. Now, we're going to tighten the front. Move my ratchet over here. I'm going to tighten that. You may notice as you tighten it onto the beam, you may notice your threads moving slightly. That's okay, don't panic. Again, when you take off the tension and you wash your product, your final project, it's going to fill in those gaps and even everything out. All right, so now we've done plain weave, we did a pickup stick. I'm going to show you another easy beginner technique, and that is the clasped weft. All right, so I have my light colored yarn, I have my dark colored yarn, and we are going to take the cake of the light colored yarn and just drop it to the floor and keep an end up here. I'm going to put my heddle up, and I'm going to weave a row of plain. And I go down position because I want my dark color on the left because that's where my dark color is here. Now I'm going to go through, pinch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the light color yarn and cross it over. And I'm going to put my shuttle back through. And you'll see here that I've caught this light colored thread. Pull it so I don't have too big of a tail. All right, now you can see I have two colors. I have two threads here and two threads here in my weft. So it is going to be a thicker pick than we did with our plain weave. So when I beat that in, you can see how that's thicker. Didn't quite get that lined up the way I wanted. Trying to get it right in the middle of the color change. That's a little bit better. Now we're going up. I'm going to tuck this end in a few rows, maybe a few more. All right, shuttle through. Pick up this yarn you've got dangling, bring your shuttle through it to wrap around it, and then pull it back. And we're going to go over a little bit and beat that in. Go to the down position. If you want, you can take this, throw it over. Oopsie, I pulled too hard. Not enough slack. Catch that yarn. We're going to overlap on that side. And depending on how you vary your yarn, you will create some really cool, interesting geometric designs. Pulled too hard there, not enough slack. All right, so again, right now my heddle is down. You go through, pinch to secure that end, come around your second color. Your heddle is still in the down position when you take your shuttle back through. And beat that in. Now I'm going into the up position. Back through while it's in the up position. And notice I didn't pinch it, I just let it pull. And you can watch if you're pulling too tight. And see, we're creating a nice little triangle here. My heddle's now down around my second color. Heddle is up position. And we just keep weaving until we have whatever pattern we desire. You could do something totally random, or you could create a design like I am here. Now I'm going to try and line up my pattern and start going in a narrower direction to close the triangle, to create a diamond pattern. And then we've closed up our diamond. I'm going to weave a few rows of plain weave. Let me cut this off. You can see I'm getting closer to my heddle again, so it's time to advance our warp. Loosen up your back beam and tighten and roll on your front. Beat your last pick into place. I'm going to change the yarn again. Because we did this pattern, my usual method of going from the right when my heddle is up, and from the left when the heddle is down is gotten backwards. So we're just going to continue. With the way it's set up. All right, now when I do my hem stitch on the end of the project, I like to end with my yarn on the right side. And you want to measure out again. 1, 2, 3 lengths plus some extra, so that you have plenty of yarn for your hem stitching. All right, we will zoom back in so you can see the hem stitch. All right, you've got your tapestry needle. And our yarn's on the right side, our heddle's in the neutral position. And it's the same thing, but in reverse. So I'm going under 2 threads and down 2 threads. And pull that up. I'm going to put the yarn up here. And I actually want to go under these 2 threads and over my working yarn. So I've created that loop. And just pull that down tight. Again, needle behind, under 2, down 2. I go under these 2 and over. Under these 2 and over my thread. And pull it tight. Under 2, down 2. Pull that yarn forward. Under 2, over that yarn. So you've created a loop here. And pull that tight. And do that all the way across. Okay, we're at the end here again, and instead of going over here, which won't do much, we're going to go between these last two threads. And we'll go under them, create that loop and secure. And again, like we did at the front, you're going to want to weave the end in. You can weave it in a little bit or all the way across and trim it off. I personally, if I have enough, like to weave it all the way across. Trim that end. All right, now you're ready to cut your weaving off of the loom. Normally, you would be at the end of your warp when you did this. You can see I still have some left. So if you were at the end of your warp, you'd be able to see where you tied on. All your paper would be gone, and you'd be cutting your threads back here. I still have extra that I could tie on and weave some more, but I'm going to cut this off and show you how to finish your project. Now, if you did not do a hem stitch, you could simply cut 2, 4, 6 strands, however many you wanted, tie an overhand knot, and that's how you would secure it. And you would do that a couple threads at a time all the way across so that you don't lose any of your weaving. You could still do that at the end here if you wanted a different look. All right, now you're just going to loosen your front beam and pull that off. Now this waist yarn that we had at the front, because we did it in loops, we can simply pull each one of these loops out. And it's fairly simple. Now, depending on how you want to do this, you can cut. Depending on how long of a fringe you want, you can cut this, or you can untie each of these from your loom. since I've got the hem stitch, and this is just a sample piece, I'm going to go ahead and cut. And there we have our mini weaving. There's the back side that we couldn't see. And here's the side that we were working with, because you can see my extra little strands where we changed colors. Could make a cute little wall hanging. Now we're going to go wash it. Now, if you're using something with wool, you are not going to want to agitate this a lot or you will felt your project. I'm also just using cool water and a little bit of Dawn dish soap. We just want to make sure that it gets very thoroughly wet. And we're going to let that soak for about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll come back, dump this water out, rinse it with some non-soapy water, and then we will hang it up to dry.